Okay, great. Thank you. Well, welcome everybody to today's DORR Educational Breakfast. We have these, as you know, the third Friday of every month here, and lots of different topics. And it's wonderful to see everybody here today. How many new people do we have? First timers? I see Gail, I see Trina, Winnie. Welcome, everybody. It's always great to see new people. If you're not members of DORR yet, we hope that you will join. We have lots of great events happening all the time. Let me thank, before we start, I want to thank Jeff Dissinger, who is not here today, but Sam Pettijohn, his assistant, who is our IT guy, and he always does a great job for us. Thank them. Thank Shelley Hagan. Yes. Ooh, there's Sam. Shelley Hagan and the Zoom call from her home in Cottonwood. Shelley is on the DORR board. And I also want to thank Donna Martin, who is our programs chair, and she finds the speakers for these programs. So if you have ideas of subjects or people that you would like to see us bring in, please let us know. Let Donna know, let me know, and we will see what we can do. Okay, I just wanted to mention an event that we just had this week, which is called Copying the Constitution. We stole this idea from someone who wrote an article about it in a New Yorker magazine and said it was very calming and very interesting exercise to have a copy of the Constitution and then physically write it down and copy it. So, and I see several people that were at that session are here today. We actually had a really good time. It might seem dry for people, but we all started where we had the greatest interest and started copying, and then questions arose, and then we discussed the questions, we Googled the answers, and it was really a fun time. And when we were leaving, everybody said, we have to do this again, we have to do this again. And it was terrific. So we will do this again, probably in October or November when more people return to Sedona. But it was very interesting. We learned a lot about the Constitution. And then we also compared what is happening now to what is written in the Constitution. Right. And it was really sad to see that this regime is kicking the Constitution in the butt on so many levels. It was really eye-opening and sad. And so we will do that again because we want to be more informed. And, you know, this taking our country back is going to obviously have to come from the bottom up because the top down doesn't seem to be working. Institutions are capitulating, and we're going to have to do it from the bottom up. And that's fine. We're ready for that task. And DORR is ready to head into next year and elect the right people. But one thing we did learn about the Constitution is that these rights are not going to protect themselves. We have to do this for them. So that's what we will do. Somebody has posted, if I get Constitution Day in the US, Wednesday, September 17th. Yes, Wednesday, September 17th is Constitution Day. We will honor our Constitution however we can, but don't get me distracted on the current events. There we'll go the whole time. I just want to make a few quick announcements before we bring on our excellent, wonderful speakers. The first one is we are having a march protest in Cottonwood on September 1st. September 1st is Labor Day. The theme is Workers Over Billionaires. Bring your signs. There will be a march, there will be a rally, and then there will be a picnic, a Labor Day picnic right there at the park. It's a kids' park. It starts early in the morning. I'm not sure what time, but if you're a member of DORR, you'll get all the information. So please show up for that from 9. Okay, that would be great. September 18th. This is a new thing that we are just sponsoring. People from Save Our Schools are doing a Save Our Schools Education Roadshow. Carrie Hull and Nikki Indekovich are coming here. They're heads of Save Our Schools Arizona, and they are going to be talking about the funding cuts and the voucher system that is strangling our public schools. This is a very important topic, and I'm hoping you can all be there. September 18th at 2:30 in the afternoon at the Methodist Church. Again, you will get more information. The weekend of November 1st, we did this 2 years ago, and we're doing it this time, November the 1st. We are having a series of 1 year out parties. I don't know if you remember those last year, but it is to raise money for DORR. It is one of two fundraising events, major fundraising events that DORR has. We don't ask you for money all the time, like a lot of organizations. When we ask for money, we are giving fun in return. So we did, if you recall, in May, we did our Resist dance, and the dance was well attended, and we raised some money there. And so November 1st, and I'm asking you now to please think of this. We are looking for hosts who will open their homes to have whatever kind of a party you want. Last year, someone brought in a sommelier. Someone had a Woodstock party. And she gave out free gummies. Needless to say, hers was the best attended of all the parties. We had a 60s party. We had a Sunday brunch. We had a Sunday football watching party and tailgate party. And so whatever kind of theme, or even if you just don't want to have a theme and just say, I'm inviting my friends over, it's $40 a head for your guests. That will all go to DORR to help us win elections next year. And people have a lot of fun. There's a lot of creativity out there. So anytime the weekend of November 1st, Fridays, we had a Friday night game night last time, whatever you want. And Kim Meller, who is our new events chair, is going to be spearheading this and coordinating. And so right now we're in the process of soliciting hosts. Once we have the kinds of parties that we're having, in fact, Shelley Haken is going to have a folk song, 60s protest song party in Cottonwood. Once we have those and we can line them up, we can then start inviting guests. So please think about entertaining people that weekend. Saturday, October 25th, Attorney General Chris Mays is coming to Sedona. Yay. She is coming for a fundraiser. We have lined up an absolutely gorgeous home on Oak Creek. It is beautiful. We're going to have a fabulous time. You will be getting information about that, but just put that down in your calendar, October 25th, Chris Mays. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up is postcards. We have started collaborating with Field Team 6, whose motto is Registered Democrats Save the World. And we are sending postcards. These are packets of 20. Mary has already done her 20 that we are sending to people in Congressional District 2, our congressional district, who are left-leaning but not registered to vote. They compare lists like who owns a Prius, and who subscribes to the Nature Conservancy and things like that. And they combine these lists and then check if they're registered to vote. And if they're not, we send them the postcard with all the information they need to register to vote online. So please feel free to take these packets. We would love to have more. Last time we wrote literally thousands of postcards, and they're very, very effective when you consider the difference a few votes makes. Chris Mays, our Attorney General, who's coming here, who is doing fabulous work, was elected by 280 votes. So it's that close, and we need to elect the top three in our state. So the work starts now. We have two wonderful speakers today. I know both of them personally. Dottie Schindlinger is a close personal friend. I just wanted to point this out to Dottie. She made this bracelet for me. I wanted to see that I'm wearing my lucky bracelet. We're in a group of women who all worked at the Alice Paul Institute in New Jersey, in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. And this group of women who were on the board, we all became friends. And now we have a little subgroup called the Free Radicals. And the Free Radicals travel together every year. We rent a big house someplace and we go someplace that has some historical significance. We've been to Seneca Falls, where the first women's convention of 1848 was, and we've been lots of places. And so I know Dottie quite well, and she's quite brilliant. She started an organization, started a company to help advise boards of nonprofit organizations. Because as you know, a lot of times boards are not run very professionally. You may not have Kathy Kinsella there to be a parliamentarian. So Dottie did that in the beginning of her career. Then the company was bought out by Diligent, and she is now executive director of something called the Diligent Institute. And they work on corporate governance, research programs. They are the leading AI-powered provider of board communication and governance. I'm not going to read you her whole bio because you read it, and that's why you're here this morning. We also have Peter Paccone with us. Peter is a former high school teacher. He taught social studies in high school for 40 years. And now he's doing something different and exciting. And he's helping many groups figure out how to harness the power of AI to make classroom education better, how to improve it. He's got all kinds of national awards, which you've seen on the bio. And he's a great guy. And I met him when my husband and I were vacationing at Monument Valley. And we were out there, and we're on this patio, and this guy walks by, and he's wearing an iCivics t-shirt. iCivics was founded by Sandra Day O'Connor because she thought kids are not learning civics well enough in school, and she was right. So she founded this fabulous organization, which educates teachers on how to make civics interesting for them, how to keep their attention. And so Peter's been working on things like that for his career, his post-retirement career, I should say. So welcome, Dottie. Welcome, Peter. We're going to start off with Dottie. She's going to do a more general overview of AI, and then Peter will follow up and be a little bit more specific about what AI means for education. So welcome. Thank you. Hi, Dottie.
It's so good to see you, Ellen. I'm wearing my bracelet too, in solidarity. It's so great to be here with you all today. So as Ellen mentioned, we have this connection through the Alice Paul Institute, but in my day job, I now work for a software company that is an AI software company. So I just want to put a couple of caveats out there. I'm going to talk a little bit about ways you might try using generative AI for political organizing and other work that you're doing as part of DORR. I am not an AI expert at all, but I do work for an AI company. And so in our company, we are using AI all the time to do everything. Where I'm spending most of my professional time these days is talking to and researching and helping boards of directors understand how to use AI for board work and how to do that safely and put good guardrails around that. If anybody wants to talk to me about that, just feel free to reach out to me. I'm not going to talk about that here. Today, I thought I would share with you some thoughts about ways you might use generative AI in some of the work that you're doing. But of course, I'm not a political organizer either. And so I'll just kind of start out by sharing with you what I've put together. Let me put my screen up here. I basically started my preparation for today by going to my friend Claude, which is a generative AI tool created by a company called Anthropic. In my opinion, it's one of the better ones for content creation. It does quite a good job. And I just asked it to create a slide presentation for me on AI and political organizing. So that's where I started. It created what you're seeing on my screen. And just to kind of show you a little bit behind the scenes of that process, we had a good chat, Claude and I, about what I wanted in there and how I wanted this to go. And I refined it many, many, many times. I think this is probably version 30, because you don't just do something, copy, paste, and forget it. You have to refine it. You have to review it. There needs to be a human in the process. But let's just kind of go through some of the things that it put together. And I'll talk to you a little bit about some of the things on my mind related to using generative AI. First and foremost, let's just offer some definitions. I'm sure everybody's heard of Gen AI or generative AI. You've been hearing about it everywhere. You probably hear it referred to as Chat GPT. That's kind of become the Kleenex of tissues, right? ChatGPT is sort of the generic term, but ChatGPT, quite frankly, is just one tool. It is one tool for content creation that is put together by a company called OpenAI. There's lots and lots of others. And just to give a little explanation of what we're talking about, we're probably a little bit more familiar with traditional AI. Maybe we don't even know that we're familiar with traditional AI, but has anybody done a Google search at any time in the last 20 years? Has anyone ever used Siri? Have you ever, gotten a recommendation for a book, or, what pair of pants would go well with this shirt? Or maybe you've used something like Google Photos and you want to find all the images of your husband or your friend, and it can look through all your photos and identify this is that person. That's all traditional AI. And basically, traditional AI is using programming to really sort through mass quantities of data and classify data and then surface it up to you based on the criteria that is in the data. Generative AI is a little different. So it basically does something similar to traditional AI in the sense that it is math plus data, but it goes a step further in that generative AI is taking prompts and creating something new. That's the generative part of generative AI. So it's basically taking this mathematical formula and trying in very natural language speech to create something that is wholly new. And that's very, very, very important to know, because it's not always right. It's generative. It's creating something new, but new may not be true. New may not be factual. And so it's incredibly important to have a human involved in the process. I find generative AI to be the most useful in two ways. One is as a first draft tool. It's incredible at being a first draft tool. So when I created this presentation, boom, it created a presentation for me. I then went through it, read it, and said, fact check this slide. This makes no sense to me. Is any of this right? And it's like, aha, you're right. There's 17 errors on this slide. Let me fix that for you. So you need to kind of think of it as a first draft tool. The second way that it's very helpful is as a thought partner. One of the things that generative AI has at its disposal is the sum total of human knowledge. Might be helpful. And so I find myself using it these days as a thought partner. So for example, I might say to it, pretend that you are a veteran HR expert and you're trying to hire for this job. And I put in my job description of what I'm trying to hire for. And you have now met this candidate, and I put in a LinkedIn profile to that candidate. What would be questions that you would want to ask that candidate to surface whether or not they're good in these three areas? And then it will come up with some really great questions that I can potentially use in my next interview process. Or I might say to it, I'm struggling with this challenge, and I want to understand, if I were in this position, how would I look at this differently? And it will give me a new perspective on how to see that issue. It's really good at that. It's generative, it's creative, it's coming up with lots of new ideas. The most important thing is not to rely on it as a crutch to take over your brain. You don't want it to do your thinking for you. You want it to be an aid. You want it to be an assistant. So let's talk about what that might look like in different ways. Like, how is it being used, right? It's being used in lots of different places. I can share that within Diligent. There's pretty much not a single piece of code or a single draft of anything that hasn't been touched by AI in our company. So most of our product is now, the starting point of coding is all done by AI. And of course it is. It's really good at that. It is really good at coding. In fact, I'll just share with you a quick example here. So here I am looking at this presentation, okay? And I was, doing this in Claude. And so I'm going to click on Customize. And it's going to customize this artifact. Artifact is Claude's terminology for stuff, like slide presentations, flyers, drafts of essays, what have you. Okay, so here it is. It's looking at this. And maybe I'm coming to that slide about how is generative AI being used today. And I want to ask it, is this all still correct? And I'm going to say, look at slide 3 and make sure that all the information on this slide is factual and correct anything needed. So I'm just having a chat with Claude, plain English, and it's going to do its thing. And it's going to fact check the slide. It's going to tell me what it's doing. It's searching through the web. It's trying to find out what does it see. And it's going to kind of tell me what it came up with here. And then what you'll see it do next is really quite magical. So once it finishes its search here, it will actually take this slide. These slides, by the way, were all created by Claude. doing HTML programming. So it literally is a website that it created for me, and we can give you the link and you can follow along with these slides. So look, now it's writing code for me. So here it is writing HTML code for me. And when it's all done, we'll have an updated version of slide 3. So it's that fast. So you can start to kind of imagine the kinds of things that it can do for you, how it can kind of update things quickly, how it can give you good first drafts. But again, you want to make sure you've got a human in the process. It's most useful when you kind of know what you're already doing and you want it to just do it a little faster. So I'm going to republish this because then that makes it available to you and the rest of the world. And I'll go to my link again. And we're back into our presentation. So let me get back to slide 3. So here are some things that it changed, right? So it said, okay, it's really good for content creation, articles, emails, social posts. That's very true. Great first draft tool. Ad copy, lesson plans. We did an entire certification program on AI ethics and board oversight, and we used ChatGPT extensively to draft some of those lessons and suggest to us exercises that we could do with board members that would help them sort of understand their role in overseeing the risk and overseeing the opportunity of AI. You can use it for creative things. There's a great tool called DALL-E, which I know I turned Ellen on to probably about 2 years ago. And you can use it to create logos or flyers or imagery for anything that you might want to do. You can use it to compose music, create videos. You've probably seen 1,000 AI generated videos these days. There's a lot that you can do. And this just gives you some examples. I think this is kind of interesting. I asked it to give me an example of how it's been used in political campaigns. And at this point, over 75% of campaigns are using AI. And of course, because these tools, generally speaking, are pretty cheap. And it can do all this stuff in a fraction of a second or a few minutes at most. It's really pretty powerful. If you want to create a campaign video, you could use an AI campaign, you could use an AI tool to help with that. And it might end up being far less expensive than hiring a crew and filming something and writing a script and then doing post-production. It'll do all that for you in about a half an hour. And so maybe cost you, let's say, $30 a year for a few videos. So that's a huge game changer. Could be very, very helpful. I would say that, the big thing here is to use these tools to kind of level the playing field, right? If you're not a big, well-funded campaign, you don't have deep pockets, you don't have big coffers to draw from, you can still use these tools and get pretty good content out of it. You might have to tweak, you might have to massage. Obviously, you need to fact check, but it can really be helpful to you to use instead of other things. So on this slide, I just asked it to give me a list of free tools that you can play with. If you've never tried any of these things, a great place to start is ChatGPT. You can use it to just draft things, and we'll do a couple of those together so you can sort of see how it works. You probably are already using Google Gemini. If you do Google searches these days, you're getting, rather than just a list of links, you're getting up at the top a suggestion of an answer. That's all generative AI. That's generative AI telling you, I've looked across the universe, and this is what I think the answer is. And so you're seeing that first. That's now the first result that you see on every Google search. Claude, we just talked about. Canva is a great tool for anything graphic. So think flyers, think buttons, think yard signs, think invitations that you want to send out over email that have nice graphics with them. Lots of things that you can do. And then one of the other things that is really powerful and I think super exciting is the opportunity of these tools to then translate things for you. So if you want to take something that you've written and have it translated into Spanish or translated into, other languages, you can do that very quickly. Google Translate is good. DeepL is good. ChatGPT for translation is pretty good. And it's not just written content. It can do that on videos. There are video translators that can take a video and then in real time translate it and have the speaker, the very same speaker, speaking in another language in that person's voice. And so that's a very, very cool opportunity, especially if you're trying to make things more accessible to voters across Arizona, many of whom are not native English speakers, right? So we have to make sure we can accommodate their needs. And AI is going to make that a lot easier and a lot less expensive and a lot faster. Here are a couple of examples, right? So I asked it to give me a couple of campaign examples for Arizona. I don't know if these are right or wrong. Again, this is Claude. You have to fact check. But it gave me, okay, here's a prompt that I could type into something like ChatGPT. Create a 30-second DORR script for Ruben Gallego supporters in Flagstaff focusing on healthcare costs. And it came up with, hi, I'm name of person with the Gallego campaign. Did you know that medical costs in rural Arizona are 40% higher than the national average? Ruben's plan would cap prescription costs and expand telehealth access. Can we count on your vote on November 5th? So something like that. So you can put in a prompt and it'll come up with something. Here was one, the prompt, create an Instagram post about Mark Kelly's space background, appealing to STEM students at ASU. So science, technology, engineering, math. So here's the output. From astronaut to senator with a cute little emoji, Mark Kelly brings a scientist's approach to solving problems. That's why he's fighting for more STEM funding at ASU. Hashtag Arizona politics, hashtag STEM. So you can see how you could start to use this in all these ways, maybe to do things you haven't been doing already, right? Or to do things you're already doing a little faster, a little cheaper, and at scale, right? This is the idea with generative AI is how can we help individual small groups of volunteers suddenly operate like they're multi-thousand people companies? It's possible. Again, with risk, but it's possible. So I came up with a couple of exercises because I thought it would just be fun to play a little bit. I thought you might want to see some of this stuff kind of happen. But here are some things that you might want to just play with at home. Start with campaign content. You could open up ChatGPT and say, write 5 social media posts about your candidate and key issue for Arizona voters. Why don't we do that one together? So I'm going to pull ChatGPT over here, and I'm going to ask for someone to give me a little bit of guidance here because I don't know Arizona politics. So y'all do. You can help me with this. So I'm going to say, I'm going to try to say this. Well, actually, I'll just copy and paste it because that's way faster. Give me a name of a candidate and a key issue that you want me to plop in here, and I'll do it. Who's got a candidate for me? I can't hear anybody.
Dottie, I had to mute the room because there was noises in there. So
Okay.
if anybody in the room has something, Sam, you'll have to unmute if people are going to talk there, but then you'll need to mute again.
How about Jonathan Nez on housing? Yes.
Okay. So is that how you spell, and how do you spell the last name? N-E-Z?
N-E-Z, like Pez.
Okay. And sort of housing affordability, availability, what?
Availability. Yeah.
Got it. All right, let's see what it has to say. So ChatGPT is going to do its little crunching here, and it's going to come up with, oh, really? Wah, wah. Okay. Let's try, let's try this one. 5 social media posts
Katie
about
Hobbs
the
defending Medicaid.
Katie Hobbs defending Medicaid.
sure. Let's say
A little bit-
about
A
need
little more available.
to defend Medicaid for Arizonans. We'll just take the candidate out of it and see if it, here we go. So sometimes I will say this is actually, I'm kind of glad this happened because you do have to be aware. Many of these freebie tools will have some restrictions on usage. And sometimes one of the restrictions is specifically around political campaigning. I don't think that's true with ChatGPT. So I'm not quite sure why it didn't work, but some of them do have that restriction. So just be aware of that. If you kind of run into a brick wall, you can always reframe it to be just about voter education and then it'll be fine. So here's an example of that, right? So it says Medicaid matters. Sorry?
Dottie, could you read a couple because it's small print on the screen?
You bet. So here's what it
Thanks.
came up with. It has a nice little bullhorn emoji. It says Medicaid matters. In Arizona, Medicaid, AHCCCS, covers over 2 million people, including children, seniors, and people with disabilities. Without it, many would lose access to life-saving care. Protecting Medicaid means protecting our neighbors, friends, and families, heart emoji. And then it's got some hashtags. The next one says, did you know Medicaid in Arizona doesn't just provide health care, it supports tens of thousands of jobs in hospitals, clinics, and community health centers. Cutting Medicaid funding risks both public health and our local economy. The next one is in rural Arizona, Medicaid is often the only safety net for healthcare. It keeps small town hospitals open and ensures doctors can serve low income patients. Defending Medicaid means keeping rural communities alive and healthy. And then I'll just read one more. little baby head emoji. 1 in 2 Arizona children get their health coverage through Medicaid, through AHCCCS. Protecting Medicaid equals protecting Arizona's future. Every child deserves a healthy start in life. So there's a good example, right? That took a couple
But how can you
seconds.
fact check that?
Right,
How
that
can
was
you-
that was my question
Yep.
also.
You can just ask it, fact check these statements.
Well,
And it will search the web and find references, and it will say whether or
Oh,
not
that's
it thinks
awesome.
it's true. And so in this case, it says like statement number 3 about 1 in 2 Arizona children says unsubstantiated by current data. So that was clearly an example where ChatGPT just made something up. So this is why we want to be careful. So I always, the interesting thing is, you could drive yourself crazy trying to fact check yourself or ask it to fact check, and it'll give you some pointers. The nice thing about asking it to fact check is if it finds it, it will give you the source material. Then you can go to the source material and read it and see if you agree that it's true. And that's always a best practice. Always, always fact check. So that was just a little example.
We have another question, Dottie.
Yeah.
What if you start with an absolutely false statement, but you're asking the AI to support that statement? Like, let's say you put in a statement, Democrats support pedophilia, right? I mean, you're starting with an incorrect statement and a falsehood, but you're asking it to support that statement. Will it do that? I'm just.
Yes. Yes, because again, remember, it's generative, right? So try to remember, this as much as it feels like you're talking to a friend, it's not human. So it doesn't know right from wrong. It doesn't know true from false. It doesn't have a moral compass. So it is going to just generate information that sounds like something a person would say. That's its job. That's 100% a feature, not a bug. So you have to absolutely just be careful. Now, I will say something like the example you just gave. It's probably going to reject because it's got the word pedophilia in it and the word Democrats in it, and it's probably going to go against its acceptable use policy. But other tools, that's not true. So you just have to be very, very cautious. I'll give you an example, a specific example. I wanted to see it do something false and see how that worked. So I asked it at one point to make a convincing case using data from a report that I knew didn't exist, because it was a report, written by Diligent Institute on this topic. There was no such thing. And it came up with a whole argument that was just complete fabrication with data, with percentages, and it was a complete fabrication, but it was a very helpful example to me of, again, it is a generative tool. It is not meant to be a truth teller. And so you have to absolutely make sure you fact check, make sure that you are putting some safeguards and some guardrails around your usage of it and doing it in a responsible way. Now, that also keeps me awake at night because there are lots of people who don't have good intention who are going to use it in lots of very nefarious ways. And that is the state of the state. Now, I don't know let me actually go back to my presentation here for a second. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and I won't spend a ton of time on this slide, and you should read it at your leisure, is just get a sense of what legislation is out there. The big one right now is the latest one that just came out of the Trump administration, the Trump AI Action Plan. And you should read up on it. Don't take my word for it, read up on it. But what I will tell you is a lot of people are very concerned about how much power this gives to tech companies and how it erodes some of the safeguards that were put in place by the Biden administration. And I think those are real things to keep an eye on, because the truth is, I work for a tech company. I feel like I work for one of the better ones, but the truth is, we're going to do what's good for business and not necessarily what's good for society. I hate to be that draconian about it, but it's the truth. We all know this. And so just keep an eye on that, keep an eye on the tools you're using, how you're using them. And there are absolutely state laws and federal laws that govern how you use things. For example, it's illegal basically everywhere to take a video of a candidate and use AI to make them say something they didn't say. That's illegal basically everywhere. It's called a deep fake. And you kind of want to avoid doing anything like that. However, it's totally legal for me, for example, to create my own AI avatar where I feed in images of myself sitting in different parts of my house wearing different outfits, and then feed it a script and have it generate a video of me in my voice saying what I fed it. That's legal. And that's completely okay. So you would want to think about that. Like that's a good example of where maybe you can't get someone on video, you don't have the money or the time to get a recording crew out. You can use tools like Canva or Vidyard and feed in images of that person, write a script, and as long as they approve it and it's okay, that's all fair game. And that now you've created a beautiful looking video. They might blink too often. The avatar isn't always totally right. I had an avatar, we did a little test run, and my avatar looked a little bit like a bobblehead. So it's not always perfect. You got to play with it, but it can be a way to kind of, cut down on cost and speed up on time and make things a little bit more scalable. All right, I'm going to pause there. I would be happy to take questions from folks, and then I'm eager to hand it over to Peter because I can't wait to hear what he's got cooking. He's got a lot of cool stuff going. So questions, happy to answer them.
Question from Ben.
So I've started using ChatGPT, the free version. What am I not getting by not paying for it?
What a good question, Ben. It's less about what you're not getting, and it's more about what free means. Here's my sort of very basic explanation of what free means. When something is free in technology, it always means that you are the product. And so for AI, what that means is anything you're feeding into it is helping to train the model. Now, that's completely fine if you're doing something very generic, like create a yard sign encouraging people to vote. Fine. Like you're training the model, fine. But if you were to say, create a strategy for this candidate to get around this argument that's been really good at knocking them off their feet in a debate, well, you've just shared that with the world. So whatever strategy you've let it create now belongs to everyone because it's the free version. Generally speaking, if you license these tools, it's private to you and your data is kept a little bit more private. Now, that's a big statement, and you should absolutely read the licensing agreements and you should do your due diligence, just like you would anytime you buy anything. Do your due diligence, really find out what are you doing with my data. But generally speaking, when you buy a version, they're protecting your data. And so you can feel a little bit more free to have a free exchange with it because it's not then putting that into the public model and allowing that to be something that someone else can benefit from. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we have another question here in the room, and I don't know about the chat. So go ahead and answer.
Is it Janine?
Janine.
If we took that question that you did the hypothetical, which I forget exactly how it read, and you put in Republican or the Republican person, I forget which way you ended up doing. What do we get? Because that to me is almost more important than the first answer we got, which is is everybody else saying that we need to know what they're saying. Is that possible?
Yes, you would approach it a little bit differently, right? So let me just go back to my friend Claude here, and let's just start a new chat with Claude. And let's do something like, so again, our friend was Jonathan Nez. So
you know what? Our congressperson, the evil Eli Crane.
Yes.
He has more of a record than Jonathan Nez because Nez has not been in office in Congress. He's running. So maybe Eli, is that what you're getting at, Janine?
What was the exact question we asked a minute ago? What was the exact question? But I couldn't remember. Take the name out, put in Eli Crane.
Okay, so what is he
take
like?
the word Democrat out, put Republican. I don't remember how that was.
It was this. It was write 5 social media posts about Jonathan Nez and housing availability for Arizona voters.
Okay,
is that what you
if
wanted?
Put in, Eli Crane instead of Jonathan Nez.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would be the results?
And spell Eli, is it ELI?
Yes.
Yeah.
Crane?
Yes.
Let's see what Claude makes of this.
Thank you for
Let's see. Let me do a new chat.
Or maybe we should do Congressman Eli Crane.
He's gonna put out stuff that he thinks is.
It might be the word availability.
Yeah.
If you change it to affordability, that is definitely.
No, we want the exact one of
understood.
the other one.
Well, we didn't get a response for the other one. We didn't get a response on the other one.
Well, that's pretty interesting too. Why not?
Give me the wording.
Because they
Well,
don't
it can't, it shouldn't be.
Here we go.
search affordability generates responses.
Yep. So it's working on it. But so first of all, the first time I did it, I used ChatGPT, and it didn't like my question. So it just didn't give me an answer. So I'm using Claude. So that's another thing, by the way. If you don't get a good result in one tool, try a different one. I mean, they're all available. So here's what it's come up with. And if you want, I can share this with you all. If I publish it, it'll be available to everyone on planet Earth, though. So I'm not sure you want me to do that. But this is, it's saying with median home prices at 444,500 and a shortage of approximately 136,000 rental homes, Arizona faces a serious housing affordability crisis. And I mean, so again, it is being generative. It's not saying that these are positions he holds. We asked it to write social media posts about Congressman Eli Crane and housing affordability, and it's writing what it thinks is an appropriate response to that question. It's not necessarily saying these are his positions. If you wanted to find out his positions, you'd ask a different question. Summarize the positions held by Congressman Eli Crane on housing in Arizona. And then now what it's going to do is it's going to go search news sources and websites and try to summarize what it found. So it's saying I can't find specific housing related legislation. But here's what I did find. Yeah, he sponsors bills in public lands and natural resources, armed forces, national security. So basically what it's saying is he doesn't have any stated positions on this. Right? And then here's the context. It's saying it's got a housing shortage. It's, 7 states that prohibit cities and towns from enacting mandatory inclusionary zones. So it's laying out that he doesn't really care about this issue. That's what it's telling you.
Which is informative in and of itself.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But he does because he would like to take over the public land space
Oh.
to build housing.
Yes.
Right.
That's really his position. That's what he's signed on to.
Well, listen, I'm feeling embarrassed now because I'm eating into Peter's time, and I think I should step aside and give him the floor. But thank you so much, and I'd be happy to chat with you if you want to ask other questions another time. I'd be happy to chat with you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dottie. Do you want me just to step in here?
Thank you, Dottie. That was terrific. Now we'll hear from Peter. I just wanted to tell you one example. First of all, Dottie taught me about ChatGPT and Dolly and all that stuff. And when we were going through this thing where they were going to take the public lands and they were going to vote on those, I went on ChatGPT and I said, draw me a picture of Red Rocks in Sedona with a not for sale sign in front of it. And some of you may have seen that because I posted it on DORR's website, Facebook, and on a number of places. It was perfect. It had Cathedral Rock with a not for sale sign. Wow. And that was picked up by a lot of different organizations on their Facebook page. It took me literally 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, Peter, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go ahead and share my screen and let's
So
see.
Peter, you look like you are a jumping bean.
Now not.
No.
Oh, now not. Okay, great. You're good.
Was I going up and down?
Yeah. You got too much coffee?
Not sure what that's all about. All right, let's see.
Okay.
Are you
We're good.
okay? Strange here. Are you seeing the screen right now?
We are. Yes.
Great, great. Hey, before I get started, I want you to know I went ahead and changed, so I put on the civic shirt.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. And the other thing is that question about paid versus free. Great question. Dottie's response spot on. But for this particular group, the members of this group, and I will allude to it just a little bit in my presentation here. The paid version. Now keep in mind that's the free version 3.5 and then the paid version in the 4.0 range. We are now into 5 as of last week. But if we just look back to the free versus paid, $20 a month for the members of this group, there are at least 5 features that I believe are worth that $20. That given the kind of work that you do, which oftentimes is educational oriented in the fact that, I mean, other than writing emails and so on, your job is to convey messages. The paid version is worthwhile. It's superior. And I'm going to only allude to one of those features in just a bit. Anybody who wants to reach back to me, I'll be more than glad to explain, but it would take too much time away from what we're doing today. So the presentation is civic action in the age of AI. And the first thing that I want to do here is, other than my biographical sketch, which you've already heard about, I would just like to pitch, if you will, or promote. I completely forgot to add it on here. I did write a book published by Simon and Schuster, co-authored with a good friend of mine, an AP government teacher, that you all might find of value. It was made public. It appeared in bookstores, Constitution Day, just this past year, and it's entitled Constitution 101. Basically, just sort of a primer on the U.S. Constitution. And the only reason I remembered it was because of the talk about carrying a Constitution around in your pocket and that wonderful activity of copying it down and writing about it. So let's talk about what is civic action. And clearly we are talking about grades 6 through 12. We're not talking about lower elementary school. We're talking about high school, middle school. And by definition, the term, because this is civic action in the age of AI, the term refers to when students, either working alone or with others, try to make the school, the community, the world, the state, the county, generally a public entity of some sort, better, somehow better. And oftentimes that means seeing if they can affect policy. So in other words, it's when students, they go from saying, oh my goodness gracious, that's not fair. You can picture kids saying that, or this is so dumb, turning around, walking away. Worse yet, this sucks. To actually stepping up, speaking out, and then working together to make a change that matters. That's civic action in a nutshell. Now, in a school setting, when students are encouraged to engage in civic action, it's usually within the structure of something called a civic action project. And this project idea only goes back to about 2009. That's really when the whole concept of the civic action project was launched. So I need to just stop here for a second. This presentation is civic action. It is not civic education. It is not civic learning. It is not civic engagement in the age of AI. Those words, those three words mean something. And yes, it's subtle, and yes, it's nuanced, but it's different than civic action. So this goes back to 2009, the concept of the project. It got a huge boost here in California in 2014. It got an even bigger boost in 2016 when College Board, the folks that oversee the annual AP government exam, placed into the course a required civic action project, which no one is doing right now because they're not assessing it, but all that's about to change. And then it became an even bigger topic with the launch of AI. Because now everybody says, oh my gosh, we don't know how we're going to assess any longer. Assessment has been challenged. AI is revolutioning how we're going to assess. And quite possibly, we're going to have to look, at least in the social studies, to something called project-based learning, which is what civic action is. So a lot of introduction there, but I wanted to get through that first, where it's a civic action project, usually in a gov course, sometimes in a history course, environmental science, economics, or sociology course. Primary goal is to write a report. Now, in the world of lobbyists, that might be called a policy brief. But the report is going to summarize some kind of problem that the student sees, both sides of the issue, some solution, some rationale, basically going to put forward everything the student has learned about the problem that they want to see addressed and how they think it should be solved and the steps that need to be taken. The secondary goal in a civic action project is to report out. We're not just producing something on paper. We're not just producing a YouTube video or a PSA or something like that. It isn't just producing a work. Now comes the reporting out. Classmates, school officials, ideally government, community leaders, even better. And then questions that logically flow from the work. That at its core is a civic action project. It is not to change policy, though in some cases, students do come very, very close. So before I show some specific examples of how AI can be used, what I'd like to do is just give you a classic civic action project. This is the community in which I teach. Imagine that this clock tower is located here, placed there about 15 years ago. But don't imagine the plans. Just imagine an ugly slab of cement. This is a major intersection, San Marino, California, home of the Huntington Gardens, world acclaimed hunting gardens. This is Sierra Madre, this is Huntington Drive. The school is just a quarter mile down the street. Along comes this student, a senior taking US government, and two of his friends. And they have been assigned a civic action project, make the world a better place. They're given a whole bunch of ideas, at least starter ideas. They can pick one, come up with their own. They choose, oh, you know what we're going to do? We are going to see if we can get the city council to turn this area into a parklet, a little mini park. They produce their policy paper. They do all their research. This young man here goes out. Remember, this is long before AI, goes out and learns how to work a basic little, I think CAD program is what that's called, creates a design or two. Just clearly not going to work in this space, but he gave it the best shot. They come before the city council, they put on their ties, they wear their button-down shirts. Here's your mayor at the time. They give a presentation. Didn't have to go this route. Mayor could have come into class. Student could have just given it to the teacher, the students in the class, or maybe to the principal. But mayor seemed interested and invited the students in. Why? Well, because part of their civic action was to write a letter to the mayor to see if he would be interested in having the kids present. And he had a real interest in it. So he invited them in. 5-minute presentation, little slideshow, and I think it was a half hour of follow-up questioning. City council actually voted to set aside, I think it was $6,000. And then I don't know if you know about my particular community, but the mayor, I love him, good friend, did something he shouldn't have done, little on his walk with a dog, neighbor he didn't like, something involving poop in a bag. Next thing you know, he loses his job. And these guys decide, okay, enough of that. In any event, about 10 years later, the city council says, well, we're not quite going to go with this idea, but they do turn it into a park. Just one idea, okay? So now let's talk about other sample civic action projects, starter ideas, ideas that you could put, teachers can put in front of their kids. Ideas that if you want, you take this slideshow, you say, well, I like this idea. I wish this was going on in the schools that I know. You can send to your principal or to your government teachers. And how about, free college tuition? National voter ID. I tried to mix both red and blue concepts in here. I'm not so sure. My leaning is blue. When you said earlier Prius and what was it? Nature Conservancy subscription. My hand went right up. Right up. I got both. And the only thing I didn't mention is also California social studies high school teacher who went to Berkeley. So there are my credentials. U.S. Supreme Court term limits, life at conception amendment, flag district. So you put some ideas in front of the kids and then you let them go. You say, hey, you could also, work on a state law. How about a civics test graduation requirement? Maybe. Yeah, how about that, right? Yeah. How about a state and local government course requirement? We require the federal government, which the kids don't really care about because they can't do anything about it anyway. And everybody knows that since 2016, and certainly here, with the Trump election, we are all looking more local because we can affect local. We many of us lost faith in our ability to affect national. But, just some ideas. Free Wi-Fi in the parks, off-leash dog park creation, fun ideas, bike path. How about a community compost drop-off program? Ordinance, right? And then the kids have to learn the meaning of the word ordinance. And here was a fun one. Always gets, someone picks a holiday homework ban. No homework assigned before a national holiday. And then made due after the national holiday. If teachers get a national holiday, it only seems fair that teachers. Now, I bring this one to your attention because I had a group of students that did that one, and it went nowhere. I mean, they presented in front of the principal, and he said, hey, thank you very much. The politics of this community, I'm not touching this. And then they went to the state lawmaker, and they met with him over a little Zoom meeting. Hey, he said, I'm a Democrat. Do you know who votes for me? And do you know what they will say if I support this thing? That's not going to happen. And then about 10 years later, a new principal comes into the school and trying to make a real impact on how she's going to make differences. And she didn't particularly like teachers. She thought they were a bunch of flakes. And so sure enough, that's what she announced. And ever since, principal every year announces that at the beginning of the year. Hey guys, I don't want you giving homework before or after. It's not a rule, but it certainly is a strong request. How about AP class limits, teacher dress code, and a move to a 90-minute block? Let's do a second one, okay? Again, I'm showing you, examples that really went into the noteworthy category, but they don't have to. This young lady right here, high school senior, she's Armenian. He's not. He is. They're not friends. These three are definitely not Armenian. They're in my government class. Time to do a civic action project, put a whole bunch of ideas in front of them. They spend endless amounts of time thinking about it. Zare comes along and he says, hey, I just looked at my world history textbook from last year. There is no mention of the Armenian genocide. Zero, not a zip. I go, sounds to me like you have a civic action project. They write their policy proposal. What does that policy proposal call for? He says, well, ultimately, we want to meet with the state lawmaker for our district, the senator, state senator from our district, who is Armenian. And maybe he won't meet with us until we first, over here on the left, meet with the state superintendent of education in California, who then will lobby the state senator. Now, really nice idea. And in a normal situation, I would just say, okay, maybe one of them will meet with us by Zoom. Maybe the state superintendent's chief of staff, Craig Cheslog, maybe he'll meet with you for 10 minutes, or even a lower level staffer. This is really a lot to expect these two noted individuals to meet. Well, then this young lady says, okay, but you know what? I have a friend, a family friend, who knows a noted Armenian in a neighboring town, a member of the maybe even president of something called Armenian National Committee. And I'm going to reach out to her as one of my civic action steps and see if she'll get involved. Oh, she got involved. And that's why this meeting was set up. And here's this senior looking like an adult giving the pitch. We really want this to happen. And sure enough, the next thing you know, the five are in the office of the state senator. Now, it did not pass. Why? Well, the kids learned a real political lesson. And that is, the state senator feared that if he were to support this, put his name to it, that the Turkish community and Turkey itself would be so offended that California would pass something, as the governor was not going to sign it, that they would limit the use of bases in our war against terror and so on. Now, whether true or not, that was the message. In any event, it didn't pass. So, how am I doing on time? Can we just get a quick check here? Good.
You're good. You're good.
Another 10 minutes? Are we on there?
I think so.
Sure. All right. So let's take a look here. Here's these. In the age of AI, we can continue to do what we've always done, or we can give the students the tools that allow them to kick up their policy proposal, their policy paper, to give better slideshow presentations when they're actually giving their presentation, to anticipate questions, and then come up with answers that really hit the mark within a specific period of time. In other words, we can teach high school kids really how to produce the kind of work that maybe a professional lobbyist might do. At the very least, we can raise them up faster and better than ever before. So let's just take a look here at Canva. Canva AI. It allows kids to make slideshows, real high quality slideshows. I'm going to just go through a couple of these and I'll show you a video or two. Napkin AI helps them to generate amazing graphics and visual content. Snorkel. You talk to Snorkel, the platform. You say, hey, I have to be able to answer several questions that I expect are going to come to me after I give my presentation, follow-up questions. I'm not going to work the information into my presentation. I'm going to expect it will come afterwards. And I'm going to give you a little rubric. I'm going to speak to Snorkel. I'm going to give you what I have to say, and then your AI is going to assess my oral presentation. I love this word sensei. Student says, I don't really understand the word ordinance. What's the difference between an ordinance, a statute, and a law? I'm going to show you this one if I have the time. And you plug it in and watch what happens. It's better than a dictionary. It's better than a thesaurus. I work with students in my tutoring business from China, and I will tell you, the ability of those kids to learn multisyllable vocabulary words that matter when it relates to U.S. history and U.S. government using word sensei is astounding. These are just various tools. ChatGPT, I want to talk to you about right here and now, all right? So we were talking earlier about the paid version and the free version. The paid version allows voice chat. Now, I'm going to play this. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I gave a presentation, national AP conference just recently, and I wanted them to see how teachers can use AI. Students can do it with voice chat, so can you. Let's do it this way. All right, so ChatGPT, I want you to assume that I'm in the car, I'm driving to work, I'm a high school teacher, a push. The exam is just a couple days away, and I promised my kids I'd come into class today and I'd conduct a review. And I know one of the questions they're going to ask me is all about the Compromise 1850, 20, Kansas-Nebraska Act. I can't keep those things straight. I can't keep them straight. So just help me here. Short, sweet answers, to the point, just a couple of sentences. Compromise of 1850, if I'm only going to require them to know two provisions, what are they?
For the Compromise of 1850, focus on these two provisions. First, California admitted as a free state. This tipped the balance in favor of free states. Second, the Fugitive Slave Act. It required citizens to help in the recovery of fugitive slaves and denied fugitives the right to a jury trial.
Okay, now in real simple language, just a few sentences, how did that 1850 differ from the 1820 compromise, the Missouri Compromise?
The Missouri Compromise of 1820 mainly kept the balance between free and slave states by admitting Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state.
Okay, so the video goes on. You get the idea. In my presentations, I'll show the remaining 3 minutes, but imagine what a student can do. What a student can do who's working on a civic action project. It isn't just typing and then reading. It's also the ability to have the AI with a voice mode sort of act like a coach, like a teacher. I'm about to give a presentation, or I will be giving a presentation, or I am writing a policy brief and I'm stuck. I can't figure this out. I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Talk to me, coach me, on and on it will go. And it is all personalized. So if the student says, hey, and I've done this, I speak German, give this to me in German. Oh, it will. And with my Chinese kids, they get stuck, to teach me Paccone just in my tutoring session. I had a kid do this just the other day, just tried to explain to me the electoral college. I didn't understand that. Let's try it in Chinese. And all of a sudden it comes all back in Chinese. I don't understand it, but sure enough, now the student seems to be able to answer any multiple choice question that I give them as it relates to the electoral college. That's with the paid version. And it's only one of the 5 features that I think those of you who are doing this kind of work DORR is doing, might find really helpful. A little video on turning text into visuals. So I'm not going to have you, obviously we're not looking at the text. I just want you to just focus on the visuals and then imagine what a student can do with that, how they with the AI, they can get exactly what they want and plug it into a slideshow or anything else that they're going to do as it relates to a civic action project. Endless options and completely and absolutely editable. You control it. Imagine what you might be able to do. Now, here is a platform. I love these guys. It is extremely popular. They just pulled in $35 million of startup money. I am, in fact, a consultant for Snorkel, okay? But video speaks for itself.
What are these students doing?
They are using a new program called Snorkel.
With Snorkel, students record and share their reasoning then receive instant AI-powered feedback to drive deep and meaningful.
So you saw that? The question teacher can put up on Snorkel, student could put up on Snorkel. They read it, and then they have the headphones on because they're going to speak the answer. And then the AI in Snorkel will give them feedback and show them how to improve.
Learning.
Let's dive in.
Using Snorkel's easy. Student.
And again, we're not going to do the dive in because that will take us one step further. In the interest of time, I'm going to skip my friend Tom Ritchie here. I'll come back to that if we have time. Okay. I want to show you just two other, if you will, sort of civic action projects. When drone technology came out, these 4 students living in a community like the one on which I teach, relatively affluent, they all have pools, they all have nice backyards, and they're noticing that people are coming into town flying drones over their house while the kids are swimming, running around in their bathing suits and so on. They take offense. They are going to try to get the city council to pass some kind of zone ordinance, whether it was legal or not, who knows. Imagine how the AI, a platform like Snorkel or Napkin AI or the voice mode, might help them to get ready to produce the document, to get ready for the presentation, be able to answer the follow-up questions. Imagine how much learning can take place and the professionalism that will result, so on. Students putting on, in this particular case, students had an idea, and they thought one really cool idea would just be to do a talk show. This is the talk show host. These are all students. And the politician, local, somebody, I think, assembly, I think it was a chief of staff, came in and they said, hey, why don't you just watch our talk show? It wasn't particularly good. They wasn't polished enough. The AI would have gotten them up to that level, but, you know, made for a fabulous photo. If you are liking these ideas and you want to send them over to your government teachers or encourage this to go any further, and there's good reasons why now is the time, that this is there's been building since 2009, but now is the time. I can go into that at some other point. Here are 50 great ideas, a blog post I wrote 2 years ago, and here are a number of ideas, great ideas for history. So the other ones are usually government and those kind of courses, and here's history. I would like to show you my gift bag and then take questions. I do not want to run over, and I lost track of time. Dottie, Ellen, can one of you tell me how much I have?
I think you have about another 10 to 15 minutes.
Bravo.
About 10 minutes, I would say.
10. Then I'm going to show the gift bag. I'm going to show you the questions. If there are no questions, I would like to go back and show you Class Companion because it's pretty astounding. But let's do this. For the benefit of all, you're going to get the slideshow. I have produced this sort of end of presentation gift bag, and it's really designed for any and all teachers, site district administrators who attend any one of my presentations. I'm only going to take 60 seconds to introduce this to you. But think of it as a collection. It's a collection of slideshows, blog posts, online articles, everything and anything that you might want to look over, go over, if you have an interest in learning more about the topic of AI in education, which of course also just translates to AI in society. And it won't move here. Let's see here. On the and there, what we have here is, you know, the table of contents. It's relatively long, but if you go through it, you know, you'll see. So if any of you could join this if you wanted, but AI focusing Facebook groups, or here are the 50 most famous AI tools in education. And it goes on and on. Here's Class Companion and so on. I just want you to feel free to access that, share that with any administrator, school administrator, share the slideshow, do with it as ever you want. Podcast, books, the whole thing is curated. The best part is at the very end is my team. It consists of 15 insanely talented teachers who helped me put this together and who are now spreading word of the gift bag. So we go back now to the slideshow. There, I would love to take some questions. And if one of you says, "Oh, I'd really like to hear about this Class Companion," I'll be more to answer that question. But the first one, the difference, I'm not so sure we need to go into unless you're really interested. The history I've kind of alluded to already. Since then, there have been a number of institutions that are promoting this idea of civic action. And I can just give you a little insight. Do not be surprised if within 2 years, College Board decides that the Civic Action Project is not just going to be required in AP government, which generally, if you will, we like to think students that take AP are the future leaders of the country, but it is also going to be worth anywhere from 10 to 20% of the exam score.
Please.
Don't,
We
pardon
can only
me?
hope. We can only hope.
Well, I'm very much involved in that. And if it does not happen within 2 years, I will be absolutely shocked. Okay. The time is right. The leaders are all set up. Yeah. I'm very much involved in that. Interesting question. What percentage of the country's high school students, high schools are doing this? I have no clue. And it's extremely, of course, controversial because, well, even at my school, at one point, my assistant superintendent came to me and said, hey, could you kind of take it down a notch on civic action projects that relate to the school? I said, no, that's where kids really get excited. She said, I don't want to have a kid come to me anymore and say, for the sake of their civic action project, they want the doors painted red, meaning Spanish red, as opposed to school colors Titan blue. I said, I think that's a great civic action project. Why not? They said, because we live in a polarized time where both ends are crazy. So anytime a student says any change in the school, they have to understand they're going to be exposed to adult crazy nonsense, which isn't in their best interest. Plus, it means that I have to, the assistant superintendent, I have to deal with their parents. So, tough stuff. Yeah. So let's leave it right there. Any questions at all?
Question. Did we have a question in the room?
Yeah.
Peggy? Yeah.
I have a question. Who pays for the paid versions? Do school districts pay for the paid versions so that students can use it? And are they able to use them at home?
Well, like the answer to that question is really more general. What about paid version, anything AI? And it depends. It really depends on the school and the location and so on. But here's the amazing bit of news. Just out about a month and a half ago, Google announced, you heard earlier, there's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. By far, in this country in particular, Americans are using ChatGPT. Claude and Gemini are competitors. Gemini was created by Google. Google announced just last month that they are going to be placing into schools for free for students, not only Gemini, but 30 AI-powered apps. It's the biggest AI story of the year. Yes, schools can turn off whether the elementary kids can use it or the middle school. But as of this fall, anybody who purchases what's called Google Classroom, and it's hugely popular in America's schools, will be able to provide their students with free access to some real high quality AI.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
So cities and towns can help fund their school districts if they can't afford this?
Oh, I love that question. Well, theoretically, yes. School districts that I know here in California have giant walls up against cities and towns being involved in any which way in school business because they always feel that it comes with a request for payback. And so I have been kind of involved in that as well. I see nothing but tension, enormous tension, if not just outright disdain when we talk to schools and towns versus schools. I don't see partnerships of any real significance. Yeah.
Can I take a stab at that? There are laws that prevent your separate taxing districts. The school district is a taxing district. You pay taxes into that. You pay taxes into a fire district. The cities aren't taxing you based on, or at least this city isn't taxing you based on land use or anything. Our income comes from retail tax, bed tax. You had the taxing districts have to be kept separately under state law, and that state law is common in many states, not in every, but in many. But there's gifting back and forth that cannot happen between these based on that. But your superintendent of schools, right, your education superintendent in the state is somebody who you would want to probably lobby and say, you want tax support, public support, going in for something like that, if that's what you want. Just don't forget there's a dark side to data as well, these things in terms of the data centers and the environmental. So be careful what you lobby for, because there's always another side. You want to balance your interests, right? Especially somebody who's environmentally conscious.
Do we want to check some of the questions in the
Oh.
chat, Shelley?
Sorry.
Let's see. I don't think I.
Actually are no questions in the
Yeah.
chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a question who's on Zoom, please mark it in the chat and we'll ask.
One of the things that people seem to be afraid of is, I guess you could almost call it cheating. So the video you showed of asking for, the background of the history, if you assign a paper to the kids, what's to stop them from just having ChatGPT write the paper for them? And how do you check that they're learning it, not just
It's
copy?
an enormous and legitimate concern. Sal Khan, the owner of the company called Khan Amigo, wrote a book a year ago, and he said, "Look, all of that. What we have to recognize is AI is going to revolutionize how teachers teach, how students learn, and how schools assess. In other words, what we are looking at is not sustainable." That was his argument. I am a member of the College Board AI in AP committee. Actually, I'm a leading member. I was asked 2 years ago to give a presentation on something that I believed in that they had heard about. It is the College Board, as a result of that presentation moving forward, changed how work is being done in 3 classes: seminar, research, and AP African American Studies. We created a model. Long story short, answer to your question, sorry, is that assessment is changing. So as long as we continue to require and expect students to do what we have long done, yep, probably there's going to be cheating. There's just no way to stop it. But the vision is for something different. And I certainly can go into all of that. College Board in those 3 classes is leading the way. If it would not have been for a cheating scandal the last year, which put everything on hold, I imagine we would have moved into 5 or 6 other classes. The interesting question is going to be what's going to happen next year. But yes, how can you detect cheating? The detectors, the AI detectors, a lot of people say they don't work. I will tell you, they work pretty well, okay? And so running stuff through a detector for the purpose of finding out to what extent the AI was used and then having a discussion rather than counting on it to be the definitive statement on the subject and then penalizing a student is how College Board is doing it. And I think that's how, at least for the foreseeable future, it will happen. If we have an assignment and we don't want students to use the AI, we take the work. When it's done, we run it through a detector. Whatever it reveals, we have a conversation with the student, and then we give them 3 choices just to respond to what the detector reveals. And then depending on the student's choice, we make the call at the adult end. Way more complicated than that, trying to do it in a short period of time. But essentially, that's it. But cheating is a major concern. Teachers don't want to run it through a detector. They just don't want kids to use it, but they are, and they will. Yeah.
Okay, I got a question to your left.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Okay. I just have a question about, I want the next generation not to lose their thinking, their ability to analyze, analytics, thinking creatively. And how do we do that?
Your question, to rephrase it, is a little just to make it sharper, is, hey, Paccone, what do you have to say about that MIT study that came out a month ago? That was quite something, and I encourage you all to read it and to look at it. I oftentimes will give a presentation on it, but I will caveat it by saying, it is incredibly nuanced, and we're all struggling to make sense of it. It had a wonderful headline, which is, extended excessive use of AI, can damage the brain. But
There you go.
then what about beyond that? And so we are in the early stages of it. I will, as much as I am an advocate of AI, I'm going to confess something to you right now. And you're the first group I've ever confessed it to, okay?
Oh, right.
Yeah, here we go. I use AI a lot. And I will share with you that unless I'm like before a group like this, about to give a presentation, I had learned that my ability to communicate has deteriorated. Because when I'm communicating with people, aside from like where I'm communicating with you right now, I have found that my brain sort of kicks into this AI mode where all I have to do is give a couple scraps of information, not even punctuated properly or grammatically correct. And the person at the other end, like AI, will understand what I'm saying and we'll have a nice conversation.
Yikes.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really caught me to the point of being very concerned. So
Thank you for that honesty.
Sit on that. That's what we need to have, taking action on that.
yeah.
I have a question.
One more question, I think, Peter.
Thank
I
you.
can't believe I just offered that up, but go ahead.
Your face is turning red.
Is there anything like an original thought? Because once
Yeah.
you come up with an original thought and you publish it, it becomes a universal thought. It ends up getting fed back when you're checking. So how do you know whether something is an original or something is a copy?
Those are the kind of questions I generally try to steer away from because I don't have a clue. But it's, you know, they have great questions, and as we move forward, my brain says something like this. You know, everybody wants to talk. Is this like the electric light bulb? Is this like the Industrial Revolution? My brain simply says that we are at a point in time which is equivalent to the first Model T rolling off the assembly line. I know the thing isn't going to work 100% all the time. I know it's going to pollute the air. I don't even want to think about what kids are going to do in the back seat one day. I know there's trouble all over this thing. But on the other hand, I know it's here, it's not going away. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to learn to drive it to best possibility, and I will share with other people the benefits of it, and at the same time, not shy away from talking about the downsides or the threats, the pollution, the this and the that, and the so on. And that's the best I got.
That's okay. Hey, just check in with Shelley one more time. Shelley, did any question come up when you asked?
Nope, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay, that's awesome.
So our Zoom people are very much enjoying and listening.
Awesome. Peter, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It
It was a real pleasure. Real pleasure working with you guys or presenting here today. And collectively, we have quite a challenge. I'm very concerned about this country. I have an adult son, an adult daughter. I now have my first grandson. We just celebrated a year, and I can't help but conclude, you know, unless you're born into wealth and from privilege, it's going to be a rough hoe for a lot of people in this country.
Right.
That's not the Democratic Party that I know. That's
I
not.
know. All right,
the
Peter,
party
you
that I
promised
live
not to
in.
go down a
I did.
sad.
Yeah. Sorry.
I'm gonna reel you
Sick
back
right-
in.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Can't help it. It's tough. You guys
know,
have been the
it
best.
is.
Thank you.
We all feel you feel it. So don't, you're not the only one, trust me.
Yeah.
All
Thank you.
right,
Thank
well,
you.
thank you so much, Peter. Thank you. And Dottie, I don't know if you're still on the line or not, but thank you again for your topic and for your and that's it in terms of Zoom and presentation. So thank you, and thank you, Shelley, for helping us.